Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, we are from Group 3. Today we will deliver our presentation about critical literacy. And I'm Muhammad Azim Ramadan, gonna be the first presenter. Okay, so let's begin with the meaning of critical literacy. Critical literacy is the ability to read text in an active, reflective manner in order to better understand power, inequality, and injustice in human relationship. For the purpose of critical literacy, text is defined as a vehicle through which individuals communicate with one another using the codes and conventions of society. Accordingly, songs, novels, conversations, pictures, movies, ads are all considered text. The development of critical literacy skills enables people to interpret messages in the modern world through a critical lens and challenge the power relations within those messages. Teachers who facilitate the development of critical literacy encourage students to interrogate societal issues and institutions like family, poverty, education, equality in order to critique the structures that serve as norm as well as to demonstrate how these norms are not experienced by all members of society. Now let's move to the history and theory of critical literacy. The term critical literacy was developed by social critical theories concerned with dismantling social injustice and inequalities. These critical theories contend that un- in, in unequal power relationships are prevalent, and those in power are the ones who generally choose what truths are to be privileged. Through institutions like schooling and government, these ideologies are supported there by perpetuating the status quo, with schools and only particular knowledge is legitimized, thus including groups who are unable to contribute to the process of the authentication of that knowledge. According to Anne Beck, critical educational theory or critical pedagogy applies the tenets of critical social theory to the educational arena and takes on the task of examining how schools reproduce inequality and justice. Critical social theories are concerned with oppressive and unjust relationships produced by traditional form of schooling and critique the traditional models of education, which typically place the teacher at the front of the classroom, processing and transmitting the knowledge to students who sit idly learning or receiving the information. In Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Paulo Freire provides an example of how critical literacy is developed in an educational context. Freire proposed a system in which students become more socially aware through critique of multiple forms of injustice. This awareness cannot be achieved if students are not given the opportunity to explore and construct knowledge. Freire described a traditional type of education as the banking concept of education. This model of education is characterized by instruction that turns students into containers, into receptacles to be filled by the teachers. In this classroom, knowledge is a gift bestowed by those who consider themselves knowledgeable upon those whom they consider to know nothing, and the teachers separate themselves as being the processors of knowledge. Okay, for the next slide will be delivered by my friend Adrian.
In this role, the teacher does not necessarily challenge the student to think authentically or value student on fund of knowledge. In the opposition to the banking model, teacher and who recognize the possible value of developing critical literacy do not view their student as vessel to be filled, and instead create experience that offer student opportunity to actively construct knowledge. In this model, school becomes space where students integrate social conditions through dialogue about issues significant to their lives. Teachers engaged in the critical literacy serve less as instructor and more too as facilitator of conversation that question traditional power relation. Knowledge emerges only through invasion and reinvention, through the relentless invasion continuing, hopeful inquiry human beings pursue in the world, with the world, and with each other by using critical pedagogical method. Teacher create space where they can be learned and student can be teacher, thus probing a content for everyone to construct and integrate theories of knowledge. Okay, critical literacy in the practice. The development of critical literacy encourage students to question issues of power explicitly dis- disparities within social contexts like socio-economic status, race, class, gender, sexual orientation. Becoming critically literate means that students have mastered the ability to read and critique message in the text in order to better understand whose knowledge is being privileged. Essentially, teachers using critical pedagogy demonstrate how to evaluate the function language play in the social construction of the self. Michael Noble and Colin Langshire suggest that when students become critical literate, they can examine ongoing development, the part they play in the world, and how they make sense of experience. Facilitating in the development of critical literacy promote the examination and reform of social situation and expose students to the bias and hidden agendas within text. Thus, in the order become critically literate, one must learn to read and reflective manner. Read and the connection mean to give meaning to message of all kind instead of joking at the word on a page and comprehending the meaning of this word. Instruction that encourage critical literacy development come and respond sorry development come as a response the marginalization of the growing number of American students who are not members of the cultural dominant group of white middle-class youth. Furthermore, according to Adrian Black Judge, critical literacy emphasizes the potential of written language to be a tool for people to analyze the division of power and research in their society and transform discrimination. Critical literacy and social action. There is the often activist component to critical literacy education where the teacher serves as the facilitator of social change. Joseph Kratovic suggests that in addition to teaching student function skill, the teacher must also provide conceptual tool necessary to critique and engage social along with its inequalities and injustice. Furthermore, with the activist potential in critical literacy education, students will learn how to envision a world in which all people have access and opportunity.
Okay, next, when students learn to use the tools of critical literacy, they can expose, discuss, and attempt to solve social injustice within their own lives. When engaging in the development of critical literacy skills, students learn to acknowledge the unfair privileging of certain dominant discourses in which society engages. Students participate in conversation about the injustice of privileging one group or area over another because of skin color or socio-economic status. And teachers can help to empower students by providing opportunities for them to find their voices. Critical literacy in the classroom. Because critical literacy theory focuses on the relationships between language, power, social practice, and access to social goods and services, there are numerous methods of engaging students in becoming critical members of their society. Within the frame of critical literacy, it is important to look at texts like novels, magazines, articles, short stories, films, and so on, through a lens that challenges social norms. Students can evaluate whose knowledge is being privileged in text and deconstruct the message of those meanings. As readers, students must also evaluate the social construction of a text and question the factors that may have influenced the author to treat the text in a specific manner. Moreover, using critical literacy, teachers encourage students to look at texts from other perspectives and retreat them from the standpoint of marginalized groups in order to analyze the power relation and social inequalities promoted by the text. Next, classroom application. Practitioners recommended that content may be produced in reading, logs, journals, weblogs, personal narratives, and student street videos. When students produce content text and evaluate the process they use in order to construct the text, they validate their own perspectives. Taking social action. Moving students to social action is also a practice characteristic of critical literacy. Students engaging in social action projects can improve the condition of their communities. By taking research outside of the classroom, students can actually participate in society based on the information they discover. Once students research and better understand aspects of their schools or community, they may engage in projects to improve an area that is lacking. Berman contends that by following this framework, teachers can help students learn how literacy can be used as a vehicle for social change. And the last, other methods. Incorporating media and technology is another popular strategy for including critical literacy in the classroom. The internet, popular media, and technology play an increasingly larger function in American society. Teachers must show students how to read between the lines of the media messages, question the interests behind them, and learn how to look for alternative ways to be informed and or entertained. Furthermore, because students have free access to an astonishing amount of information, they must be prepared to evaluate the credibility of sources so that they are not completely vulnerable to fraudulent information. Thus, teachers must demonstrate how the media and the internet can misinform and provide messages that are harmful if taken as fact. So that's all from our presentation. Thank you very much for your nice attention. I'm so sorry if we have any mistake. See you next time. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.